repeat that for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, you should retire after that.
And I got a fire going on outside. We got Italian beef.
Alan?
He's the Italian beef. Adrian Wojnarowski says the NBA expects to need somewhere between 15,000 coronavirus tests for players and workers in order to safely begin playing games again. USA Today reports baseball teams are preparing to resume spring training at regular season stadiums instead of returning to their spring training sites, Arizona and Florida, to save time and money. In other words, good luck in May. We made it here, but I'm not quite sure we're going to have any sporting events anytime soon. NASCAR is going to probably go as scripted here. And I understand that where, you know, you have your pit crews, they already have helmets on. And then if I have my driver, he's not coming in contact with anybody unless it's his car. If you're rubbing, you're racing, you know, and they're trading paint there. But it looks like NASCAR with no fans in the stands. You're going to look at, you know, some of these sports where the broadcasters are going to be doing it on remote, where they might be at home, a makeshift studio there. It's all on the table. And if you're saying, hey, do you think we're having football on time? I don't think so. Are we having the NBA return? I have my doubts. I had my doubts when this first started. Baseball, I think will eventually be able to play, but it's going to be a little while. But there aren't going to be fans in the stands. But welcome to the month of May. Why didn't the Patriots draft a quarterback?
Stidham. I think they felt comfortable with Stidham. They were in the market, and I'd be curious to know whether or not they were looking at Jalen Hurts, who obviously went to Philadelphia, but they were looking. But in the final analysis, Stidham is a player who would have been a first-round talent had he been in this year's draft, and you knew about him now, what you knew about him from the last year. He turned into a depressed asset at Auburn in his last year. And then, Dan, Patriots took him. He played well. There's nothing that he did that made you say, wow, we got to go get a new guy to compete with him who just came out of college.
Do you think there's more confidence in Stidham than there was Garoppolo when they first got Garoppolo?
Ooh, similar. I think it's identical. What hurts Stidham, though, Dan, is going into this second year with no preparation. You look at the 2010, 2011 draft classes, those lockout years, those players who came in at the quarterback position. The best one among the group was Cam Newton, second best Colin Kaepernick. Other than that, it's Blaine Gabbert, Jake Locker, Christian Ponder, and a collection of not very goods.
You do not like the possibility of Andy Dalton coming in to save the day for the Patriots. Why is he not a good fit in New England?
He's just a souped-up Brian Hoyer. It's not that he's a good fit or a bad fit. It's just the same thing as Brian Hoyer. The Patriots right now are a team that, if you ask me, they are best case scenario 10-6, most likely about 8-8, and if things don't go well, 6-10. So what difference does Andy Dalton make? He's not going to get you to the divisional playoff. He's not going to get you to Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl. So just take your medicine, find out what you have in Jarrett Stidham. You're up against the cap, leave it alone, and then go on with 2020 and see what 2021 brings.
Gentlemen, it is now May. I was looking back at April, and I thought to myself, what did I accomplish in April? I had more downtime, more free time, less hectic schedule. We still worked our show here, but we had time at home. So I went back, and I want each of you to answer this question. What did you accomplish in April? That may be different than what you planned on, losing weight, learning an instrument. My garage is spotlessly clean. You could eat off my garage floor. I wouldn't recommend it, but you probably could. I mean, organized. That's it. But that's not really, I'm not, it's okay. An organized garage is, not going to win me a Nobel Prize. I didn't learn an instrument. Anyone do anything in April that is not going to accomplish me?
I cleaned out the attic.
Yes, you did.
I cleaned out the garage. I cleaned out the basement. I cleaned out the garage of the man cave. I cleaned out all of my jerseys and rearranged them.
All right. Who's next?
I vacuumed the steps, as you guys all saw a few weeks back, and I watched a couple of guys over the last few days paint the house.
Oh, that's an accomplishment to watch entire house get painted.
I was having a salami sandwich and some fruit punch Gatorade and some chips, and just enjoyed them painting the outside of the house. And it was kind of raining and chilly. I offered them if they wanted something to eat, and then I went for a walk.
Who was going to make them something to eat, though? I mean, were they going to make their own sandwiches?
Probably my wife, but I've been known to boil water and heat up pasta. And
Seton, what'd you do?
Well, I think I have two things. One, I lost about 10 pounds in the
awesome.
last however many weeks. So that's pretty good. And then I also started to clean out my basement. But really, I was just moving around stuff because I'm starting to put together like a small wood shop down there. I'm going to be a woodworker now. And so years ago, an old neighbor of mine gave me a bunch of like frame making tools where you can make like picture frames. And very early in this process, I was like, you know what? I'm going to set up all that frame making stuff and start making some frames. So that's what I've been doing. And probably this weekend, I'll spend a lot of time doing that down in the basement alone, making frames.
Can't wait.
Seton was very secretive when I said, hey, do you pick up any hobbies? He goes, yeah, kind of. And I said,
I'm pretty.
All right, save it.
I'm pumped about it.
Yeah.
It's great. It's the best.
Yeah.
It really is.
What do you have, Andrew?
I'm not going to go. After you guys made fun of Seton's framing new hobby, I feel like a dork if I say anything, but I become a bit of a master chef. I don't want to brag, but if you need a grilled cheese for the kids, you need noodles. Oh, my kitchen skills have increased tremendously.
Nice. Well, all right, we've improved. We're an eclectic group.
Solid and improving.
What
isn't being told?
Well, here's the thing, and I thought Ken Burns made a valid point. Arguably the greatest documentary producer ever. I've been watching the Roosevelts and everything else. But look, this isn't on PBS. It's on ESPN. And just like Michael and every other walk of life, he controls the situation. His guys produced it. He handpicked everybody. He decides when it's going to be released. The whole story is told through him. And so some stuff may have hit the cutting room floor. Some stuff that maybe he didn't want in the documentary won't appear. And, the director, Jason Hare, he agreed. He's like, yeah, this isn't pure journalism. And I get what Ken Burns is saying, but, Dan, nobody cares. Everybody's obsessed with it. It's the only thing that's going on right now. The ratings are through the roof. So journalism be damned, I guess.
Who's bigger, the Bears of 85 or the 90 Bulls?
Oh, great question. I think this is still a Bears town. I think the aura of Ditka presides over everything. I mean, Michael and Iron Mike are the two most iconic figures in Chicago sports history. I would have to say still the Bears by a nose, my nose, although now everybody's immersed in the Bulls and they'll tell you, well, it's got to be the 6 championships.
Yes, for two.
You know what happens if CD gets shut down by cornerbacks?
Oh, boy. Here we go. All right.
I'll give you a couple of seconds.
No. Get the pain over with now.
Silence of the Lamb.
Okay. All right.
If he's unproductive.
All right.
Cannibalism
humor.
In the studio. Cannibalism humor kills.
Yeah. Then Todd gets... No, then you get to do your impersonation. Go ahead.
It places the lotion in the basket.
There you go.
It places the lotion in the basket or it gets the hose. Put the lotion in the basket.
There's a formula that everybody has to understand. Todd doesn't mention something unless it leads to something else. Somehow,
impersonation waiting in the back.
There's an impersonation of Rocky, Sylvester Stallone.
I say you can't win. This guy's a wrecking machine. He'll knock you to tomorrow, Rock. We don't want this guy. He's got the eye of the tiger. You can't win.
But that's not Rocky. That's Burgess Meredith. That's Mick.
Rocky. I don't know if I do a great Mick either.
No, you do. You do. And from The Simpsons, Marge Simpson. I think that's a good impersonation.
Hey, you're watching the Dan Patrick Show on YouTube. Fantastic.
I think that's good. I do. I think that's truly good.
Thanks.
Yeah. CD Lamb.
It's crazy that in 12 years we haven't figured out Todd could do these impressions.
Yeah. He's kind of shy when it comes to that.
I do. I'm very bad.
I'd never heard him do the Marge Simpson.
You haven't?
No.
I don't like to be asked.
About all this time together, we never.
I hate being
been hiding that.
And you did Shannon Sharp, 2 Shannon Sharp.
I think the Denver Broncos are going to win 10.5 games. I don't know how they're going to win a half a game, but they're going to win 10.5 games. They got Drew Lock, and they got them receivers. They got Judy.
And you got Dr. Phil. You've added that to your repertoire.
I don't know. You got this big fish tank and you don't got no fish in it. Why are you buying a fancy aquarium? You ain't got no fish in it. You're trying to kill a squirrel up in the tree with a water gun. That ain't going to happen. That's why your kids are on drugs.
Gonna tell.
That's why your kid's on drugs.
You need a colonoscopy, you're calling the fire department. That's not going to get you.
It is interesting that Dr. Phil will start all the way over here. Now, look, I'm guilty as charged. Well, I'll start with something, I'll go all the way over here, and I go, how did I get here? Dr. Phil is giving advice to people, that could be life or death. I'm just talking sports here. Dr. Phil will give you some analogy where you go, wait, what?
You got to understand something. Walking around with a lasso don't make you a cowboy, okay? So let's get your kids some help.
It means absolutely nothing.
And they look at him like, that's profound, fantastic stuff. My life is going to be turned around. I'm not going to be such a hoarder anymore. I'm going to start throwing out stuff.
Oh, my gosh. You've saved my life. Do you work backwards if you're baseball? I know that Scott Boras said, hey, we could have baseball right after Christmas, and you could have a World Series then. I don't know if you say, this is the last date that we would have baseball. Now we work back and say, can we get in 100 games or whatever is going to be constitutes a fair and representative of a season?
I think 80 is okay. Remember 1981, they played a split season because of a strike. So you had separate division champions from the first half and the second half. The Dodgers wound up winning the World Series, and nobody considers that illegitimate. But your point is well taken. You got to work backwards, because assuming if you're able to play in some way at all in 2020, you're then assuming there's going to be a full season in 2021. Fingers crossed. If that's the case, you can't play into January and then turn around and have spring training.
Have you called a game with no fans?
Nah. Oh, no, with no fans. Well, I was the voice of the Spirits of St. Louis in the mid-'70s, and there were some games with, there were some games then, and you're a basketball guy, I swear. The Spirits against the San Antonio Spurs, and here's Marvin Barnes right in front of me as I'm sitting courtside, about to inbound, guarded by George Gervin, and there's a crowd of 812 in a 19,000-seat arena. You got time for a story?
Yes.
Okay. Rudy Martzke, who we all know as the first and long-running sports TV critic for the USA Today, now happily retired in Florida. Rudy was the director of operations for the Spirits of St. Louis. And now there's a timeout, and they've announced the crowd as something like 3,000 or something. And I look around, and there's clusters of fans, and it doesn't add up. So I go to Rudy, and I say, Rudy, it's bad enough that we have this tiny crowd, but now we're going to lie about it like 3 or 4 times over? And this is what he says. Did it ever occur to you, you little wise ass, that maybe there are some people at the concession stands or at the restrooms? And I say, Rudy, let's test your premise. Let's suppose there was a sellout. Let's suppose there were 19,000 fans here. What's the chance that at any given time other than halftime, 9,500 of them are buying a hot dog or relieving themselves? And he gets all flustered. He goes, just sit your ass back down and call the damn game. I heard one that's floating around. I wish I had thought of it myself. And this would be for when they're able to play a full season and things have returned to normal. We talked about this before, Dan. Baseball has an interest in creating more postseason revenue and more inventory and therefore revenue. And one suggestion we talked about a couple of months ago was only the one division winner, the number one, gets a bye, and the other 2 division winners have to be thrown in with the wild cards. And I didn't like that because it minimizes the importance of the regular season and puts those division winners in a crapshoot. Here's a new idea. I wish I could claim it, but I've heard it. 3 division winners, as ever. 4 wild cards. So you've expanded the postseason by 4 teams, 2 additional teams in each league. But here's the way it goes. All 3 division winners get a bye, which they've earned. Now you've got a knockout series where the one wild card that will emerge into the division series has to win 2 games. One plays for 1 game on the home field of the number 1 wild card. 2 plays 3 on the home field of the number 2. The 2 survivors meet on the home field of the highest remaining seed. And the winner moves into the division series. Now you've expanded the playoffs, yes. You provided television with additional single elimination games, which they love, but you've actually put more emphasis on the long regular season because the division winners stand completely apart from the wild card round, and now the wild card survivor has to win 2 games instead of 1, use pitchers. They're at a disadvantage going into the postseason. You've accomplished 2 things. You've modernized by expanding the playoffs, but you've also put additional emphasis, old school style, on the regular season. I wish I'd thought of it myself.
Is this a one-off, or would you like this proposed as baseball moves forward when we actually have a regular, 162-game schedule?
No, I think this makes sense going forward with a full season under normal circumstances. What they do this year, I'd be open to anything this year because the circumstances are so different this time around. I think baseball fans would accept anything.
What are you hearing as what would actually be a distinct possibility?
Well, they have to get in some regular season games to make it representative, even if they go to a tournament type thing for the postseason. And I think that baseball fans would accept anything, I've said this before, anything short of running the bases clockwise, they'd accept because of the unique circumstances. They'd accept a World Series in a dome or a warm weather neutral site. They'd accept all the experimentation. Now's the time. Electronic plate umpire, pitch clock with nobody on base, everything. Fiddle with different postseason concepts. But you got to play at least a representative number of regular season games before you concede even an expanded playoff field. The latest thing, which you were just detailing, is not something that they would go to on a permanent basis, but it might be, underline might, there's lots of proposals out there, but it might be the best solution because players do not want to be quarantined for several months. These are young people with young families in many cases. That's not going to work. Even if the stands are empty, which is certainly going to be the case at the outset, if not throughout in 2020, if they're able to play at all, even with no fans in the stands, playing in your home ballpark is going to be so much easier. You've got all the facilities and everything else in place, and then players would be able to go home. And on the road, you quarantine them in a single hotel. That seems doable. But as you look at it from a medical standpoint, we're not experts, but we can see that there are a lot of hurdles to clear before they can say with some sort of assurance, they can responsibly say, yes, this is safe to do, not just practical to do, but safe to do.
Fritzy, what did you learn on today's program?
I learned that Bob Costas feels Major League Baseball needs to play at least 80 games to have a legitimate season.
By the way, that Italian beef we have on the Traeger,
Here we go.
it's not that good.
Yeah, right.
Right, Paulie?
No, it's not that good.
Yeah, you're not
Why
missing.
don't we pretend today's National Honesty Day and tell us what's really going on?
Oh my God, it is so damn good. It is criminal how good this Italian
There you
beef
go.
is. It's criminal. I'll serve 10 years. It's that criminal. McLevin, what did you learn today?
We had an idea for a movie about a middle-aged Napoleon Dynamite.
Well, we sort of did.
A sequel, yeah.
A sequel. Yeah, I don't like sequels. I'm good without a sequel. There's certain, I get it with Rocky and some of the Star Wars things, but I don't need a sequel. A lot of movies are great. They stand alone. Yeah, Paul.
This is what I learned. I put it out there. What sequel you'd like to see? A lot of people want to see He Got Game sequel. A lot of people want to see a Bull Durham sequel. Sports fans who responded.
Well, I did, we talked to Kevin Costner about that. And I said, what if you're the manager or you own a team in the Southern League and you're still married to Susan Sarandon? Okay. Tim Robbins is retired. He comes back as the pitching coach. But I don't need it. I don't need a sequel to Bull Durham. Seton O'Connor Jr. III.
People with red hair look younger.
Yeah, I don't know if that's scientific or not. I don't know that.
Ronald McDonald.
Paulie?
I'm sticking with Seton. Red hair makes you look young.
Yeah. What we learned brought to you by 1-800-FLOWERS. This Mother's Day, no matter what the distance is between you, there's still a way to make every mom feel loved. 1-800-FLOWERS. Assorted tulips, 30 of them, $39.99 to order. Go to 1-800-FLOWERS.com. Click on the radio icon, enter the code Patrick. Have a great weekend, safe weekend. Talk to you Monday.